Senator, right now. I know that it's early. I know that you can't say whether or not these allegations are provable or demonstrable yet, but just the nature of someone as senior as Senator Feinstein making an allegation this serious, what would happen if it is true? How far could this go?
Well, gosh, I hate to speculate. There's a little bit of back and forth. It's troubling to see this, but I do have just immense respect for Senator Feinstein. So if she's going down to the floor, she clearly believes that something untoward happened. The IG has referred a criminal referral to Department of Justice. So there's something there. We need to get to the bottom of this soon to make sure that this thing doesn't spill over and stop the agency from being able to do its work. At the same time, we need to make sure that the agency did not break any laws. That would be a pretty horrific situation, and it would destroy that legislative CIA relationship. And here's the other troubling thing: to have the CIA deciding that they were going to openly confront the legislative oversight body, is that in and itself was troubling. I think that was a horrible decision. So we need to unwind this, get tensions down, and find out what the facts are, so we can get this behind us and move forward.
Congressman, if there's even a whiff of truth to this is something an ordinary citizen, would go to jail for a very long time for against another private citizen. If you did it to the government, you'd probably never see the light of day again. If there's any truth to this, and you have the head of the CIA say there's nothing to it, what kind of steps would you have to take just to ensure confidence in the process?
Well, again, I don't want to speculate. It's pretty serious if they're going to level criminal charges. If they're found to be accurate and Department of Justice chooses to prosecute, then somebody will go to jail in that circumstance. We probably shouldn't get there yet. That referral has been made. It's serious. Obviously, the charges are serious, or I don't think Senator Feinstein would have made them. And so we're going to have to unwind this, find out what the truth is. If someone broke the law, they're going to have to pay the penalty.
Now, obviously, I don't mean to push down the road of speculation, except on this one angle. There seems to be a disconnect about what this agency is doing, what we know about it, and we now seems to include government. Do you believe it's time for a change in terms of how this agency does business?
There's plenty of oversight on it. This was a very unique circumstance. Remember, there are hundreds of engagements and oversight engagements, both from member visits and staff visits. We have investigators that investigate different ongoings of the agency itself. There's financial review, budget review, lots of that. And this was an isolated incident in a kind of a rare circumstance where the investigation was actually being done in a space that was provided by the CIA at the CIA. And so this is a little different than the normal standard standoff oversight that has to happen and continues to happen. And I don't want it to taint the whole agency. There is a lot of great work happening around the world. People put themselves in really dangerous circumstances around the world. I don't want to take away from their work. We need to find out what happened. Was this a very senior level decision to do something that violated the law? We're going to have to find those facts out. But that would have been one case that should be punished accordingly if that in fact is true. But we shouldn't taint the entire agency. The agency is well overseen, lots of oversight, and they're doing some really incredible work to protect the United States of America.
Judd Gregg and Democrat Debbie Stabenow, and here in Washington, Republican Lamar Alexander and Democrat Kent Conrad. Senator Alexander, the stories in the New York Times, we've confirmed it, that the former Vice President Dick Cheney, over nearly 8 years, told the CIA on one very sensitive piece of intelligence, and we don't know what that piece of intelligence is, do not share that information with the U.S. House of Representatives or the Senate. Is that appropriate?
Well, we don't know whether it's appropriate. The CIA is in the secrecy business. And what I hear from the Democratic members of Congress is they want the CIA to tell more of them what's going on. The best way to ruin a secrecy business is to tell a lot of members of Congress.
Even if you just tell the leaders, if you tell 8 leaders, 4 in the House and 4 in the Senate, the majority leader, the minority leader, and the chairman and the ranking member of the 2 intelligence committees.
That is appropriate.
Because that's the tradition. You tell the 8, the so-called gang of 8.
But what I'm hearing from the Democratic members of the House is tell us all. tell more of us about it. If the 8 leaders think what Vice President Cheney did was inappropriate, they should sit down with the new president and the new CIA director and say, we'd like to know more. That's the way to fix that problem. I have no way of knowing, nor do you, nor does anybody else.
No, because presumably, Senator Conrad, yeah, even these 8 leaders who traditionally are informed, I think, of almost everything, they were told by the vice president, if you believe this story, don't even tell them about this program.
That's a serious breach. Look, you can't gloss over it. It has nothing to do with what the House is asking going forward. This is a question of whether something was not given the elected leaders of the Congress, which is required by law. That's a serious matter.
If the current vice president, Senator Gregg, told the CIA, you know what, there's a really sensitive program, I don't want you to tell these 8 leaders of the House and Senate what's going on, would that be appropriate?
No, but there's no question that's not appropriate. But the problem here is different than that, in my opinion. This continued attack on the CIA and our intelligence gathering organizations is undermining the morale and the capacity of those organizations to gather intelligence. The war we're in today is a war of intelligence. The only way we're going to stop a terrorist from using a weapon of mass destruction against us is to find out who that terrorist is and what they have before they attack us. The only way we're going to get that information is through intelligence gathering. We have to have an extraordinarily robust and strong CIA, an extraordinarily robust and strong intelligence gathering organization, and this national attempt by some of our colleagues on the other side of the aisle to basically undermine the capacity to protect and develop intelligence is, I think, going to harm us in the long run.
So
now, yes, this is wrong. What if somebody told the CIA not to inform the appropriate members of Congress on information they should be informed of? That's wrong. But that isn't a reason to disassemble the CIA and basically make them a whipping child in the middle of the public opinion, which undermines the morale of the whole agency.
Senator Gregg, no one wants to dismantle the CIA, at least no one in a serious position. But if the former Vice President Dick Cheney, and I want to pin you down on this, if he did tell the CIA, don't share this information with the House and the Senate, if he did say that, would he have been wrong?
Yes, if that information was correctly, should have been shared. I mean, I don't know what the information was. You don't know what it was. And there are instances, I presume, where something is so sensitive that it can't be released. But as a very practical matter, if it should have been shared, it should have been shared.
Because I went back and looked at the legislation, at the law, the 1947 law, Senator Stabenow, and it does leave a loophole there for the executive branch of the U.S. government not to share certain intelligence information with the legislative branch of the U.S. government. It says that the Congressional Intelligence Committee should be fully and currently informed of all intelligence activities, but it does say this: to the extent consistent with due regard for the protection from unauthorized disclosure of classified information relating to sensitive intelligence sources and methods or other exceptionally sensitive matters. So presumably the former vice president could have determined this was such an exceptionally sensitive matter, it would fall into that loophole.
Well, I would be extremely surprised if that was the case. Wolf, I think the person who's been undermining the credibility of the CIA is the former vice president by his actions, if in fact this is true. This is very, very serious, and I think it goes beyond even to the credibility of the CIA, and we all want a strong, effective, credible CIA. We have to have that as part of our national security. It's integral to our national security. But this really goes to a larger question that we struggled with throughout the Bush presidency, which is checks and balances. You know, the presidency, or even the vice president who said he wasn't a part of the Senate, he wasn't part of the administration. I'm not sure where he fell in his mind in the Constitution. But the reality is that there is a reason why there are checks and balances. We don't have a dictatorship. We have a Congress that is responsible to oversee and to ask questions on behalf of the people. And I think that's what we continually saw challenged.
Go ahead, Senator
Wolf,
Gregg.
listen, Wolf. This is a big issue, not only from the standpoint of what the vice president did, but from the issue of the morale and capacity of the CIA to develop information and other intelligence gathering sources. And I sense, and I've been here before, and you have too, that we're heading back into this Frank Church atmosphere in this Senate and in this Congress, where basically where people use the CIA as a whipping boy. And instead of supporting their initiatives in overseas intelligence gathering, they become a symbol of the errors of a prior administration, and it becomes taken on at a level that basically leads to legislation or to just hearings that basically fundamentally undermine the atmosphere and the morale of this agency, which is absolutely critical to us right now. And we saw it happen before. I mean, this isn't the first time.
And you may have more ammunition, because there's now word that the Attorney General, Eric Holder, is thinking of asking for a special counsel to investigate the CIA's interrogation of certain terror suspects. We're going to get into that.
But on that point, if he does that, he needs to go all the way back to 1995 and investigate the Clinton administration renditions, which might have led to interrogations in other countries at a time when he was the Deputy Attorney General, and ask what laws were broken, did he know about it, what precautions were taken. So that's what happens when we begin to go back. We go back to 9/11. Let's go on back and let's ask which congressman knew about it.
The President said he doesn't want to go back. He wants to look ahead. Go ahead, Senator Stabenow.
Well, Wolf, I just want to emphasize one more time that this is not about not supporting the CIA or undermining the CIA or trying to, in any way, lower morale. This is not about that. I mean, we are strongly supportive of a professional, a credible CIA. I think they had incredible challenges as it related to information before going into the war. We have had so many different stories that have come forward about the intervention of the former vice president. We want to change that. We need them to be strong, credible, and supported. But part of what's happening right now is the continual information coming forward about what kind of pressure they were under the previous administration.
Well, can I
very quickly
just make this point? Look, I've had close relatives in the CIA. I've got profound respect for what they do. Senator Gregg is entirely correct. We absolutely are in a war of intelligence. It's critically important. We're the best at it. But this story in the New York Times has nothing to do with an attack on the CIA. This is a question of whether the former Vice President of the United States denied certain sensitive information to the intelligence leaders in Congress. That is not acceptable.